Hi, and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics.
And I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tune.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. This episode's being filmed by Brian Naja, and you can check out his website, adspice.net. And it's October. We're doing our sort of Halloween-themed episodes, and so we figured we'd talk about Ghostbusters. Ghostbusting.
Yeah, busting makes me feel good.
yeah. Thinking of like the Larry King interview that they did.
Perfect episode for the month of October, the spooky month. Love Ghostbusters.
Yeah, me too. Ghostbusters Mania when it happened, and like the I've Been Slimed T-shirts with like the puffy lettering on them. You know.
I didn't see the first one in the theater. I did see Ghostbusters 2 in the theater. That was
okay. I have it reversed because I saw Ghostbusters 1 in the theater. Didn't see Ghostbusters 2 in the theater.
Ghostbusters 2. I can't remember when that came out. If
86, 87 was it?
It feels like I'm pretty sure Ghostbusters 2 might have been one of the first movies I saw in the theater. Actually.
Okay. Yeah. After we came home from watching Ghostbusters in the theater, like we all wanted to like go into business as Ghostbusters. Like it felt like it was like a career option.
Yes. Like the toys too were like huge as well. Like the toys had a lot of like the equipment you see in the movie. So like when you talk about being a career option, you could like carry the traps around and like the weaponry. So
they went out of their way, just the screenwriting. Like, it's such a great script. You know, it is such a great movie, and it's like a really hard thing to like nail. You know, that sort of like balance of sort of comedy and horror and adventure and stuff. And they really did nail it. And they do such a great job, like building the groundwork, like making it seem credible. You know,
it shows them like they become the Ghostbusters throughout the movie, so you get to see them like Bill Murray. He's like doing like psychic experiments too. It's like, what do you?
That was the movie where I'd like first heard about the term parapsychologist, and it's like he's like, I have a PhD in parapsychology and psychology. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, psychology is a legitimate thing. Parapsychology must be a legitimate thing too. And then like getting into movies like Poltergeist and stuff, and like reading about ghost hunters and things like that. It's like, oh, okay, so this is like a real thing,
Yeah, like you see those commercials. It's like, get your degree in, it's like gardening, paralegal, parapsychology.
Yeah, they're like going in alphabetical order. Yeah, they made it very like they amp like that. That's kind of like really like screenwriting 101 of kind of like staging things, like making each step believable, and before you know it, you're in this like exotic, like strange world where all kinds of crazy things are happening, and you buy it because you got there by degrees.
Did Dan Aykroyd write the script?
Yeah, was it Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis together?
Yeah,
together?
So.
And like Dan Aykroyd, like learning more about Dan Aykroyd, like as the years have gone on, like he's like a weirdo in all the great ways. He's like just and he's just like a total nerd for this stuff. Like he loves and I think he like believes it too. Like he's like he believes in ghosts and whatever. And so this was like, that's what it is. It is kind of like lightning striking or whatever, because it was like somebody who was like just the perfect person to do this thing, and kind of created a thing that just didn't really exist before, and it was because it was like his own personal obsessions and interests, and of course like you can't like play down Harold Ramis's Harold Ramis is so brilliant, and he's done since then just like a great comedy mind, but then he's also done these like he kind of it's almost like he kind of like revisited the Ghostbusters formula, of sort of doing sort of like a sci-fi kind of movie with like comedy and human elements. So you'd have like Groundhog Day and Multiplicity, which are kind of like other ways of approaching like the Ghostbusters formula, but not making like a Ghostbusters replica, but it's kind of like what's the what's the kind of line of thought that leads to a Ghostbusters, and then let's create something, else, using that same line of thought.
The casting too. Couldn't I can't imagine the Ghostbusters without who's playing them in the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't talk about the casting without talking about it was created as a vehicle for John Belushi.
Yes. Oh yes.
John Belushi was going to be the Peter Venkman.
Peter
He was going to be Peter Venkman, and so it becomes a totally different movie. You can see how Bill Murray, made it his own.
But yeah, you're right. Man, John Belushi would have crushed in that. Mm-hmm. Holy crap!
Think about that. Yeah, like a John Belushi. Yeah, like the whole I've been slimed or he slimed me scene with John Belushi. You can almost and the cigarette. All the business they would do with their cigarettes in that movie. You could see John Belushi doing the whole cigarette thing.
And then is Slimer supposed to be
the ghost of John Belushi is what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was the idea that when they made the movie was okay, this is the ghost of John Belushi. Mm-hmm. We've done episodes where we've talked about first draft and early versions of different movies, Batman. Yes. Duel of the Fates, Star Wars 9, early versions, and sort of comparing these early versions to what the movie is. We'd love to do the same thing with Ghostbusters, but you can't get your hands on that first draft. There's just, Dan Aykroyd has published little tiny snippets of it in a book that he did. He had little snippets of it, but you can't and by design, it's his right to sort of. Release this or not release this. So he hasn't released it, but man, I'd love to read that.
So awesome.
Because all the things you hear about it, it was almost like a space opera or something. It was it's the deep future, and ghostbusting is just a normal a normal thing, and they travel from planet to planet. It was this high science fiction Star Wars kind of concept, and you can only imagine what the budget would have been back then, pre CGI and stuff. And I think there was a time traveling element. Again, these are all just the stories you hear about it, but you can see how sensible it was to sort of let's scale it back. Let's do the origin of the Ghostbusters. Maybe we can film at some libraries and some universities. We don't have to, and run down fire stations. We don't have to build, these crazy planets and.
It's we're in the $300 million range, circa 1980. Whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna you think about the movie 1941 or something. How that bombed. It's it's okay, we're gonna need to figure out ways to take some stuff out of this.
The special effects look great in it.
Yeah, again, great practical effects. Wasn't it was it ILM that?
I think so. Yeah.
The ghosts are I don't know too much about the behind the scenes stuff but it looks like they're filming stuff floating in water or something. So you get all the little
it looks like they're weightless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see all the little tendrils and cloth and stuff kind of waving around.
So awesome. And then you get Ivan Reitman. Mm-hmm. He's one of those alpha directors. Bill Murray needs to beat him up on the set, or he's yells. Bill Murray's somebody yell at me. He's I need you to yell at me here.
Yeah, and then Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver's Rick Moranis.
Mm-hmm. Rick Moranis, yeah. I did the 20-minute workout. Played it back at high speed. Got a great workout. I'm always thinking of that.
That's amazing. When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
As a kid, I was more sfollowing what the Ghostbusters are up to and stuff. But as an adult, I'd crack up at those Rick Moranis scenes.
Oh man.
And his character was written for John Candy.
Oh wow.
But you can kind of see the same way that Bill Murray comes in and is okay, I'm going to play this role, but I'm going to, make it mine. I'm going to create my own thing around it. You can sort of see, you can imagine what the John Candy version of that character would have been, but then the Rick Moranis version, he makes it into this role was obviously made for Rick Moranis. He kind of turns it into his thing.
I always feel really bad when the the creature like goes inside Rick Moranis when he's up against, it was a Tavern on the Green. He's like up against the window. I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah, that's a great scene. The way like, and then everybody goes back. Like this totally freaky thing happens. Everybody's kind of stunned, and then they go back to their meal and eating. Like that's great. Okay, it's like a comedy monster movie. Comedy ghost, comedy scary, but like the mythology of it is so well thought out. It's not just sort of tossed up. And it's like, again, you see like, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, they're like coming from like a very H.P. Lovecraft direction. Again, I didn't know, I knew Ghostbusters. I didn't know H.P. Lovecraft, but then now like sort of knowing the work of H.P. Lovecraft, it's like all these like elaborate gods and all this like ancient days kind of things. And then that sort of like haunted, sort of house that the apartment building,
yes,
that Sigourney Weaver lives in. That's like, it kind of makes me think of like it's the same apartment building from Rosemary's Baby or something,
yeah. Like, the Dakota.
I wanted to be a Ghostbuster when I grew up.
Me too. Like we had the Ghost Popper. Mm-hmm. It was like this, it had a handle and like a handle on the back, and it had like these like foam yellow like pellets that you'd put in and like push it and like shoot them out. And like I remember shooting my brother with that, and him shooting me.
He'd play Ghost and you'd play Ghostbuster. Like Ghostbusters 2, I never really got into. Like I loved Ghostbusters, and then when Ghostbusters 2 came around, it was kind of like I was kind of bummed out that like that Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver like split up after that movie, and she went off and like got married and had a kid and all this. Like I felt and then seeing how like ungrateful the city was, that they said like they were heroes at the end of the movie, and now like again like it's a great setup. Like it's such a great idea. Like when you're doing a sequel and stuff, it's just like just as a kid, it just like I never quite connected to Ghostbusters 2. I loved the computer. There was like a really great computer game of Ghostbusters 2 that I liked a lot. The Real Ghostbusters cartoon, forget about it. Like that's
gosh.
That was like it was like a daily dose of Ghostbusters, and it was like because it was a cartoon, they could get like more way out with the stuff.
Also with Ghostbusters 2, there's something that keeps popping up, and it's a Total Recall stalwart, the Statue of Liberty. Makes its way into the Total Recall show.
I mean, so like I've got my feelings about Ghostbusters too. Obviously, like it might mean something totally different to you. Like what are some of your
like? I saw it when I was little. I saw it in the theater, and I remember like I liked it. I like. Mm-hmm. I definitely don't like it as much as the original Ghostbusters.
Sure, I mean, yeah.
But that's a tough act to follow.
I really like the name of Vigo the Carpathian.
Vigo the Carpathian, and I'm always quoting like he's like Viggy, you've been one bad monkey.
It's been a while since I watched Ghostbusters 2. I think I'm due for like a Ghostbusters 2 rewatch.
And I remember being like Peter McNichol, like you weasel in that movie, like
he's really good, yeah,
great weaselly guy, and I love the. I think they had like the pink slime. It's like anytime there's extra slime, like in a Ghostbusters.
Well, yeah, it was like wasn't the subtitle of it? It was like Ghostbusters 2: The Secret of the Slime, or I'm thinking of Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles,
the Secret of the Ooze. But wasn't like slime was like another character in it?
Yeah, pink slime is a character in the movie for sure.
Yeah, like I felt like the slime thing. It was like, okay, I've been slimed was like the big. So now we got to amp up the slime for the sequel.
Oh yeah, and like
we need more slime T-shirts. We got it.
Like Nickelodeon slime seemed to make its way into everything. Like the Turtles.
We got jars of this stuff ready to sell. Now we need,
Yeah, like you go to a toy store and Masters of the Universe slime would be like an impulse buy right by the register. Mm-hmm. So like, but you never wanted to put the slime on like your toys.
Yeah, I didn't have the slime pit. Did you have the slime pit?
I never had the slime pit either.
Okay.
It looked cool on like the packaging for that, but I never want to get. I'd be like,
yeah. How do you get it out of like the space between the arm and the body? Yeah. Once they figured out how to make mass produce slime, you could live the Ghostbusters experience. Get that much closer. When the movies were coming out, like there weren't really like toy time. Like they missed the boat by not having action figures like ready to go as soon as like the movie came out, but it was like the cartoon. They fully merchandised that cartoon. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
they were ready. And again, like the proton packs. Like I would have loved to have had a proton pack. You know, back in like 1984 or whatever. You know,
We definitely had the proton pack toy. I got to go to my parents' house and find that. I should have I'll wear it on camera.
yeah, you could get like all the gear. You know, and you know.
There was a I think a Hills commercial I was watching, and it was like Hills is where the toys are, and like this little like Santa's elf was like, check out the toy out, and the camera panned, and there was a top shelf was packed to the hilt with proton packs, and I was like, if I could dive in there, there's like $50,000 worth of merchandise up there, like mint condition proton packs.
I guess before we get too deep into the Real Ghostbusters, there's also the fake Ghostbusters. There was this cartoon before Real Ghostbusters came out. There was a cartoon called Ghostbusters. And you're like so excited. Oh, they made a Ghostbusters cartoon. And you start watching it, and it's like this gorilla, and they're fighting like robots. They're fighting ghost robot. Like, I didn't know when robots died, they became ghosts. Or maybe it's like a cyborg, or maybe like you get a ghost and then you make a ghost cyborg by like adding cybernetic implantation to ghosts. I don't know, but it was like
it wasn't the real Ghostbusters.
Yes.
That was
yeah, and then you sort of find out that okay, there was like a live action Saturday morning Ghostbusters thing called Ghostbusters in the 70s that I guess had a gorilla or something, and then the Ghostbusters movie comes out and it's like, wait a minute, we were there first, and so they get to call themselves Ghostbusters. And so then the real Ghostbusters are forced to call themselves the Real Ghostbusters. But it's like perfect. Like, okay, great. They are the real Ghostbusters. That other Ghostbusters, you can call it whatever you want. It's shit. Fuck off with that other Ghostbusters. The real Ghostbusters are the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like on Christmas, somebody's opening their like presents, and it's like, all right, I got Egon. And then they're like, I got like the guy.
I got the gorilla. It was like a gorilla with a fedora and like a camera or something. Yeah. And then there was like a guy who like could have been played by Dan Aykroyd, and he had like an aviator's hat on or something. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. That was like lawyer stuff. That's between the lawyers. Leave us kids out of that. We want the Ghostbusters. The cartoon kind of changes the dynamics, the Real Ghostbusters, because it's like all of a sudden, like you can kind of tell like who's like a fan of the Ghostbusters movie and who's a fan of the Ghostbusters cartoon, because like Egon is like the cool one of the cartoon. Like nobody wanted to be Egon from the movie, but everybody wanted to be Egon from the cartoon. Because first of all, like he would solve all the problems. He was like the brains. He would solve all the problems. He'd figure out how to get these ghosts, which it was always reverse the polarity. I don't think there was ever an episode where they didn't reverse the polarity. And then like, why don't you just keep the polarity reversed? Or maybe they reversed the polarity last episode, and so now they got to reverse it back. Maybe that's what happened. But like Egon, he kind of had he had sort of like an anime look. He looked like the professor from Battle Angel Alita, the guy who like he had white hair and it was all like style like Fonzie or something. It was like all style, so it was like he was the anime one, like he was the cool guy,
When I think of the Real Ghostbusters, the first image that pops into my head is Egon.
Yeah, Egon with white hair. I don't know what the thinking was to like give him white hair all this, but it worked. Yeah, white hair and I think like a mullet too.
A mullet,
he had like a little bit of a mullet.
Ecto Cooler.
Yeah, like the best drink to come out of.
What the? And like, I swore, I don't know what the state of Ecto Cooler is, but like Slimer has got to still be. They still have to got to be producing Ecto Cooler, and like Slimer would be on the package, and it's like kids today they'd be like have no idea like why Slimer was on. They're like, who is this green?
Yeah, even if like there was no Ghostbusters, like Ecto Cooler could kind of stand on its own as this like great.
It's like there's a green thing on there. I love it, but what is that?
Yeah, who is that guy? That looks kind of like the ghost of John Belushi.
Yeah, like who is that thing?
Yeah, is it like looks like a pickle maybe?
A pickle? And like a
flying pickle with arms. There's the shot of Slimer from the movie where he comes out of the hot dog cart and he's got like just like a mouthful of hot dogs.
Slimer in the movie is wearing a sweater that says college on it.
Yeah, that was an interesting development too. That like, okay, you loved that green ghost from the movie. Guess what? He's got a name. He's Slimer. He's part of the team. They like adopted him after all the ghosts got set free at the end of the movie. They brought him in. You know.
Yeah, he's like their mascot.
He's their pet now. Their mascot, and I think sometimes he would save the day. There'd be an occasional episode where he would do, you know. Yeah, kids loved Slimer. He got his own comic book. There was a Slimer comic book for a while.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So Peter Venkman, played by Bill Murray in the movie. In the cartoon, the voice of Peter Venkman was not Bill Murray. It was the same guy. I think it was the same guy who did the voice of Garfield.
Oh, Lorenzo Music.
Was that it? Okay.
I think his name is Lorenzo Music.
He was the voice of Garfield. And then by some like weird ironic twist, Bill Murray later plays the voice of Garfield in the movie. Like it's kind of this like, you know,
weird circle.
Yeah, like that felt like perfect casting when they made the Garfield movie and got Bill Murray to come full circle.
They do like a Lorenzo Music cameo.
And Frank Welker was the voice of Slimer. Like Frank Welker was the voice of like every character in every cartoon, like going back to the 70s. And then he's still the voice of, you know, Ruby Roo. He's still the voice of Scooby-Doo. But he was like, he would, you know, he was the voice of Fred in the Scooby-Doo cartoons. So it's like he could do like this kind of like normal voice, and then he'd do all these like crazy like talking dog character. Like every talking dog in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon was Frank Welker. You know, Darkseid, Jack Kirby's villain character that he created for New Gods. He was the voice of Darkseid in the Super Friends cartoons. Voice of Dino Mutt. You know, but yeah, he was. So of course, Slimer needed a voice. He was the guy. Yeah, there was the Paul Feig Ghostbusters movie. That movie came out. Like I wanted to see it. Didn't get a chance. I was like busy. I forget what comic I was working on. Maybe it was GoBots. I forget which comic it was, but I was like too busy to go to the movie. So like I missed a bunch of movies around that time. Didn't get to see it. And I was like, I had like a Ghostbusters T-shirt on. I was you know, I was at like a rest stop at the on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and somebody there saw a Ghostbusters T-shirt, and he's like, "Oh, Ghostbusters." He's like, "Did you see the new one?" And I said, I said no, and he's like, boycotting it. And I'm like, what? It's like, no, I just haven't gotten around to seeing it. Like I'm not like, but yeah, like that. There's that all that like Venom. Sort of like, wow, can you make a Ghostbusters movie with girl Ghostbusters? Like, oh, I'm so like I so want nothing to do with the people that are angry about a Ghostbusters movie with you know, Kate McKinnon in it. It makes me want to like go all in as like a massive huge fan of that Ghostbusters movie, just because like I so want nothing to do with those people who are against it. But you know, that movie, like I saw it. It was all right, you know. Like it didn't do much for me. The problem wasn't that it's got to be guys. It's got to be a locker room. There's got to be a locker room. Man, I wanted. You wanted this Ghostbusters movie doesn't have enough dicks in it. I want a Ghostbusters movie that's all dicks. Like this Ghostbusters. This is too much estrogen in this Ghostbusters movie. Like no, like it's just like Ghostbusters was this like sort of like magical, once in a lifetime thing that like you can't capture lightning in a bottle. And so, yeah, they made a new Ghostbusters movie. And yes, it wasn't as good as this like classic once in a lifetime thing. It doesn't mean you got to go into some, you know, crazy.
I'm like, you tell me that the Ghostbusters 2016 isn't as good as the original.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like.
We'll never make a movie with women in it ever again.
You mean to tell me a Ghostbusters sequel isn't as good as the original? What?
So I wanted so bad to like that movie, and I just didn't. But it's just you know, not everything can be Ghostbusters. You know, it doesn't mean you got to scrap the. I would have watched a second one with that same cast. I thought the cast was great. Yeah. You know, I'd like to see more of that. And there are like, you know, these things kind of like live on, like, you know, so like the Real Ghostbusters cartoon, you know, went away a long time ago, but like, every now and then there's like a ghost, like a comic that picks up on that, and there's like comics that pick up on like that new Ghostbusters and stuff. So like these things kind of like live on, and that. But like I'd be on board for like a sequel to that.
The guy at the rest stop, he's like boycotting it. You're like, you better believe it. It's just like from Predator.
Yeah.
It zooms in.
That's right. Damn right. I'm boycotting.
You're like
what a strange.
Finally, a brother in arms. Bring it in. It's
what
like
a strange jump to make. It's like I'm wearing a Ghostbusters t-shirt. I didn't see the new one yet, and so I must be I must be dead set against it. It's not like I didn't I've missed some Captain America movies. Like I've missed some
boycotting it.
It's like no, just sometimes you don't make it to.
I know.
I've heard that the past 30 years box office attendance in general has been way down. So like I don't think you should draw any huge conclusions about somebody not seeing a movie. Yeah.
No, it's a running gag. Not any movie you don't see like boycotting it, Tom.
So now they're like rebooting the Ghostbusters franchise or whatever.
Yeah, the Afterlife with the I think there's it's got a younger cast, like kids, a lot of I think kids in it.
And is Jason Reitman directing it?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
it's a family business.
Yeah, Ghostbusting. I'm gonna see it whenever it comes out.
Yeah. Although if I'm like real busy, I might not make it to the theater. But that doesn't mean I'm boycotting.
If you don't see it, would you possibly be? You have some. It's like, could you be boycotting the new Ghostbusters?
I don't. It would take a lot for me to boycott a movie, like especially a Ghostbusters movie. No, so you can like avoid them. You can like not make it to the theater without a boy. Imagine what that like all these movies that I haven't seen. Imagine if I was boycotting all of them. That'd be. It's a lot of negative energy to like put out.
Positive vibes.
Again, the toys like came out of like the Real Ghostbusters cartoon, and I feel like the Real Ghostbusters cartoon is probably like the more enduring fandom, like the sort of like diehard Ghostbusters fandom seems to me to sort of come out of that. Like that's like the central, thing.
Like the toys have their hardcore following.
They were really cool toys.
They're great, yeah.
Like again, like we've talked about in other episodes about like various toys where it's like. The company some inventor or something comes up with some cool like gimmick or some cool little trick, and then it's like, how do we make this into so like the ghosts?
They look great, and like they had like the original wave with the figures. They had like the proton packs and little toys and little like gooey like gummy ghosts, and they had like Stay Puft, but then like. I don't know at what point, maybe like late 80s, like 87 or 88, they had, they re-released the regular figures with like fright features, like their eyes are like bugging out.
Yeah, that's the thing I think of is like the fright, the eyes pop out like that and the jaws drop.
And along that time, they had monsters.
Yeah.
They weren't like officially sanctioned like Universal monsters, but they were definitely like, they were basically the Universal monsters. There was like a Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf, a zombie, a mummy, and Quasimodo. And they were awesome. They had fright features too as well. Like Frankenstein's like jaw would drop. The mummy would like blow apart, but he had like bandages that like held his pieces together.
Okay.
It was awesome.
Sounds kind of like King Hiss from the
Masters of the Universe. Yes. And the Wolfman howled at like the moon. They look great. And they also had another line of monsters. It was like haunted humans. And they were amazing. There was like, they were just like humans that turn into creatures. And I love anything that transforms or you have to change. So like, I remember in the commercial, I think if my memory's like rotting here, but like there was like a garbage man that became like a bug. Like he put like a trash can on his head. Tombstone Tackle was like a
Tombstone Tackle. I remember him. Yeah,
football player like bent over and like a mouth came out.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, I was thinking of him as like a Beetlejuice action figure, but because there was like the football team in the Beetlejuice movie. But yeah, he was a Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the Beetlejuice figures were great too.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, we'll do a separate Beetlejuice episode.
Oh my gosh.
And Beetlejuice toys. Yeah, and again, Beetlejuice was another one where like the cartoon kind of extended the life of the.
I love that Beetlejuice cartoon. I remember like telling a lunch lady at like my elementary school, there was an episode of the Beetlejuice cartoon where he was like talking about like he was haunted by a poultrygeist. It was like a chicken or something running around like a goat. And I was like, a poultrygeist. The lunch lady like looked at me.
Wait, now return to Beetlejuice. It was like a Paul Lynde imitator. It was the narrator.
Yeah, I love the Ghostbusters toys. They still hold up. And the names like kill me every time. Like Granny Gross, I think was a character.
Yeah, Gross was real big back then. Gross was in, and Slime would be sort of like the embodiment of gross.
There has to have been like Slime in the Ghostbusters toy line.
Yeah, like their equivalent of the Slime pit.
Yeah.
You know, Dan Aykroyd, maybe you could slide us a copy of that first draft Ghostbusters script where they like travel through space and time and
that would be amazing. Love to get our hands on
and
that.
Then and if that ever does surface, we'll do another episode where we do the compare the script, the first draft script with like the movie. So yeah, you've been watching the Ghostbusters episode of Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics.
And I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. And this episode was filmed by Brian Naja. You can check out his website, adspice.net. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.
We're ready to believe you.
I ain't afraid of no ghost.